Good morning, or actually good afternoon. Brendan Rendo with the Homes in Orlando team. And we've got a ton to go through today, from tariffs to deficit to acquisitions and mergers. Just about everything has hit the fan today. So let's take a look. I'm Brendan Rendo, and this is the Orlando. Good afternoon again, and we've got a lot to go through today that's affecting the housing market. Of course, the big story that came out yesterday, President Trump standing on the Rose Garden and discussing tariffs and the reciprocal tariffs that are going to be hitting all the different countries. So when we look at this, here's the charts that everybody's seen, and you see that we're going to be basically hitting them with what has been calculated as their current tariff. The way they calculated it was kind of interesting. Still learning a little bit about that. It has to do with the amount of trade deficit, some other factors. Then they took it, halved it, and that's how we came up with the percentage that we were going to hit them. And the big thing out of this is what you see is a lot of the Asian countries, China, Vietnam, Taiwan, those are the ones that are going to be hit the most. So that's going to be interesting to see how, especially with China, how they might reciprocate back to us as well, and what it's going to do for the overall costs. Because yes, tariffs do get passed on to the consumer. So we're trying to use our power to get people to bargain and provide us with a better deal overall. Understand the whole concept. Little curious of why. And I did a little research, and I think I figured out the big story, or the big reason why Trump is trying to. What a lot of people don't realize is that right now, the US, we have $36 trillion in debt. And I think it all comes down right now to the debt structure. And of that $36 trillion of debt, over the next 4 years, we have to refinance actually $28 trillion. Of that, this year alone, we have to finance $9.2 trillion of debt. And here's the big problem with the debt is if you look at what we were paying interest rate wise, on the national debt, you'll see over the past 4 years, since 2021, our average interest on our national debt was about 1.6%. Well, just over the past 4 years, we've nearly doubled that, and we're at 3.346% interest on the national debt. And what that has caused is the chart that we just saw, which is the amount of interest being paid on the national debt has actually jumped to well over $1 trillion, actually 1.1 trillion last year. That's a lot of debt to be carrying. And what's going to happen is, unfortunately, if we refinance all of it at the current interest rate, I did this calculation just to see, is based on the average where we're at right now, which is 3.346, if we refinance the entire $9.2 trillion that is currently outstanding at roughly the average of what the 10-year T is running at right now, say 4.25, we're going to add an additional roughly $100 trillion, $83.2 billion worth of interest payment to the national debt. That's unsustainable, plain and simple, straight up unsustainable. So what do you do? How do you drive down interest rates? Unfortunately, one of the only ways we can drive down the interest rates is you actually have to slow down the economy. And what you can see is, since the tariff war has actually started, the 10-year T is actually taking a dive. It's fantastic for mortgage rates. Mortgage rates have gotten better, roughly about 0.25%, 0.375% over the past week or so. But you see, we were sitting close here to 4.3 just within the past 5 days. And for the first time, we're almost breaking below the 4% interest rate barrier. Well, if that continues and we have to continue to refinance our debt, we're going to shrink that amount of additional interest that we're going to have. And I think the whole strategy for Trump is looking at this over the next 4 years, having to do close to 2/3 of our debt to have to be refinanced. We've got to keep those interest rates down. We're never going to get back down to the 1.6, but we can't go and refinance at 5% or 6% interest rate. It will just totally destroy the United States. And it's again one of the reasons why I think he's come out so hard with the Doge program, as well, is we're just at that point. It literally is a break. And I think you saw that comment from Elon Musk roughly, past couple of days. He had an interview with Brett Barr of Fox News, and he said, we're going to be bankrupt. And he's exactly right. We are. We're going to be bankrupt. We can't continue to do this. We can't keep borrowing from one credit card to pay the other credit card. It's got to be an all-out assault, unfortunately, on the debt and on spending. It has to be completely restructured. And I believe that's one of the main reasons why Trump, it's not just bringing the manufacturing back, but it's also, hey, we've got to refinance all this debt. Unfortunately, freaking Yellen took a lot of our long-term debt that we had and restructured it into short-term. And by doing that, she left a burden on the Treasury Department that is could possibly crash. I think could actually crash the bond market, because if we've got to put out 9.2 trillion plus, we've got the current deficit. We've got to generate another, I think, $1.5 trillion roughly this year. That's a lot of debt to be put out there and to be totally restructured. So by slowing down, actually kind of forcibly slowing down the economy, he's driving interest rates. And that's one of the big things he said he's going to have to do, is drive the interest rates down. We can't depend on the Federal Reserve to do it. They've cut, hasn't really mattered much. You're going to have to forcibly push the yields down, make the U.S. Treasuries look like a safe haven. And that's what they're looking like today, with the stock market basically going through a small correction today over the past couple of days with the tariffs. So that's one of the big things I think we're seeing. But that's just one story. There's a number of incredible stories. And, a lot of people didn't see this. This normally would be one of the top stories of the day as well, which is the OPEC countries have decided to increase their production, and by about roughly 12 million barrels a month. They're going to add 11,000 barrels per day, which translates to about 12 million barrels per month. So they're going to, where they've been holding back because of fear of global recession, trying to keep the price up, they've just decided, hey, we're going to flood the market. Could it be in response to Trump's tariffs a little bit? Very well could be. But when you look at oil prices today, we've gone roughly from, they were sitting about $71.50 per barrel. They've dropped nearly $5 a barrel to $66.82 right now on the open market. So we may see some relief at the gas pump as well. So it's amazing how you see everything is all intertwined. And one thing here is pushing one thing here, which is pushing another button here. And the whole thing is just reaction right now, because who's going to blink first? Who needs who more? Does the world need the U.S. consumer, or do we need the production and cheap stuff from all over the world? We're going to find out who needs who more real quick. My gut is they need us more than we need them. And you're already starting to see a few countries starting to blink. The Premier of Ontario, Canada, he came out yesterday and said, oh, I'm willing to scrap all tariffs if the U.S. is to scrap tariff. First one to blink. And we'll see who else is going to do that as well. There's different countries that I've seen. India, I know, was one of them, talking about changing up their entire tariff structure as well. So the next couple months are going to be, I think, very turbulent as all of this actually gets worked out. And it could continue for the real estate market to be very beneficial as far as the interest rate are concerned, because we're seeing an improvement. That improvement's going to make, of course, the houses a little bit more affordable. But if everyone's, if people are afraid of losing their jobs, consumer confidence is down, that's going to bite a little bit too. So, some of the information we came out on employment this week was actually very good. So on this side, ADP's payroll increased 155,000, which was a fantastic number, great number. But on the second half, the Challenger report, which is projected unemployment, you see this thing took a huge spike, and that was due, finally, the number of unemployed for the government finally hit the report. So we're going to see that number kind of hit all the employment numbers over the next 2 to 3 weeks. Next month, I think we're going to see the unemployment rate spike a little bit, specifically because of the government unemployment as well. So we've got good, we've got bad. It's really a unique situation that I don't think a lot of us have seen before. So, and then in the real estate market, we got things going on with mergers and acquisition. Rocket Mortgage went out, and this would normally still be at the top of the headlines as well, went out and is acquiring Mr. Cooper A lot of people may not know Mr. Cooper right off the top of their head, but you may know them by who you make your mortgage payment to on a monthly basis. They're actually the largest server of mortgage loans in the country. So Rocket's gone out and they've acquired now not only Redfin, which is a portal site, but also Mr. Cooper. So what their whole goal in the real estate market to do is to provide basically, and Zillow's tried this and not successfully, provide a one-stop shop for everybody. And their whole thing is always, oh, well, it'll help cut costs, help cut costs. I've never found a monopoly to help cut costs in any way. So I understand their philosophy. I don't know if it will work. I think a lot of consumers always tend to be a little skeptical. I've always believed in a turnkey system. A lot of people like that. Just, hey, one source for everything. You take it nuts to bolts. But you also have to watch those because sometimes they'll increase their costs in ways that you can't see compared to going out and doing the individual shopping for your loans all over the place. So it's just been one of those weeks where it's been a lot of fun to watch, trying to figure out what's going where, why is this going here. But I think a lot of it, again, has to do with the national debt. I think Trump and his team is looking at that and just saying, we can't continue on the path that we're on and keep our solvency. So they're smoke screening, putting the tariffs out front here, but in the back, they're looking at the elephant in the room, which is the national debt. That's what it is. It's that national debt with the refinancing that needs to go on over the next 4 years is just huge. So we'll see if we're able to get that under control. And hopefully through not only the cuts in the federal government, I'm really curious to see spending wise over the next quarter for the government, if they're actually able to slash a bunch of the spending, because this year's projected deficit was close to $2 trillion. So if they can, I really think between possible slowdown due to the tariff situation and cutting, I think we can see the 10-year treasury back down under that 4%. Maybe actually drop to around 3.5. If that happens, we're in a lot better situation. We're still in a tough spot because we have so much debt to refinance, but we're only going to be going from roughly about a 3.3 to 3.5. So that change is going to help a little bit, but at some point the deficits just have to stop. They just have to stop, and we've got to start paying this off. Don't ask me how. That's above my pay grade. So, but that's what we're looking at going on in the markets affecting housing right now. How do our numbers look overall for the week with Orlando? Actually, another solid week overall. We had 390 home sales during the week. Our inventory increased just a little bit more. We're up to roughly about 8,400 homes on the market. Our condo market is still moving along extremely slowly. 112 sales. The median price dropped roughly about 6%, and our inventory continues to grow. And our months of inventory, as you see, holding pretty close to where it's been, which is right around that 5-month window. So really balanced to more of a buyer's market. You're seeing some homes though that are well presented, well maintained, that are going within the first week of being put on the market. And I think that's one reason why we've seen the average days on market drop roughly about 10 to 12 days. But the original list to sales price, we're still holding up there. You see, it's coming in at roughly about 94%. So you're getting about a 6% discount to work off of when you're looking at a home, and it's pretty close right across the board overall. So that's a good number to work off of when you're looking at a home. See what they originally listed it at, see if they've done a price drop, and if they have done a price drop, you've still got roughly about a 3% window there as well. So that 3%, of course, could be just a straight discount. Could be, if you're doing FHA or conventional, asking for 3% seller concession, working on getting your closing costs paid for, which should cover most of that. And then you see here graphically, again, pretty steady overall with the week's average sales. No highs, no lows, just fairly steady. And then our total actives has just continuously grown since January. And I think, springtime, we're going to continue to see this. I think we may, over the next couple of weeks, we may actually get a little decrease simply because we're going to see over the next week or so, we're going to see mortgage rates be a little more aggressive. I think they're going to see they're going to feel that the market has leveled off, and where they may have been holding on cutting rates, that extra eighth, that extra quarter point. I think a lot of the lenders are going to say, okay, things have kind of cooled off this week. Let's go ahead and let's do a little price reduction in the interest rate. May not be a whole lot, but that eighth or even a quarter of a point can make a world of difference. It can make a difference that if you want to do a buy down, how much you're actually gonna need for a buy down. You may go from $6,000 to $3,000 for the amount you need to put on to buy down that interest rate. So I think the next week or so, keep in touch with your lender. Find out, if you have to call them every day, call them every day. Just find out how that market's reacting and keep an eye on that 10-year T. I'd love to see the 4%. Absolutely would love to see it break that 4%. Condos, as you can see, months of inventory, 9, total buyer's market, absolutely total buyer's market. I have a client, we've got one listed in Bahama Bay, and she had it rented for about 2 months. So we had taken it off the market, put it back on the market. And in that 2 months, the average sales price dropped about $40,000. That's the same unit she had listed roughly about $240,000. A couple of them in there, it sold, I believe, roughly for around $210,000. So people are starting, if you're looking at condos, people are really looking to get out and they're willing to cut their prices. So keep an eye on them. There may be some real opportunities in the condo market over the next several months. And then as you can see, inventory just keeps growing. We're up nearly 20% since the first of the year. And here's the other big thing we're watching with the condos, and that's the number of short sales and the number of foreclosures. And that grew again this past week. So there's going to be a lot of opportunities there. Just keep an eye on it. So that's a lot to go through in a short period of time. But thank you again for joining us on the Orlando Real Estate Buzz. Please like, subscribe, and join us every week. We're trying to keep you up to date on everything that's affecting the housing market, both local and national. Take care.